I bundled together some stuff that should belong to the same project, and so far it's what I'm expecting. So here we have a bunch of terminal strips, and those are stackable. They interlock, so I can set them any width in increments of 2. These are going to go on a PCB where I'm going to have one power input. Then I'm going to have duplicate sets of output terminals where I can share that power supply, including the option for a little standard 2.1 by 5.5 millimeter DC barrel jack, so I can use whatever's convenient for that output power channel. And I also wanted the option to make some custom cables so I can plug into those DC jacks. And I got these yellow ones where they have this certain design here where it grabs the post better when you plug that in, compared to the other style where it's just this opening. The yellow seems to grab a lot better and hold more secure, because I've had times where I plug these into the jack and there's intermittent power, and then I tap this and it makes connection. I also have a selection of PTC resettable fuses, which I'm also going to put on that board so that if any one power output channel draws too much current, that channel can just get disconnected automatically and reset after the fault is cleared and power is cycled and there's enough time for these to cool down. So this is for upcoming stuff. I've got some PTCs already, but I wanted a variety in lower current for this application, and it's a good time to restock. And this is something that I'm going to also put on an upcoming PCB, but I also think it's a good idea to have stuff like this for breadboarding. These are breakout boards for addressable LEDs, WS2812, and you can just break these away and use them as individual things. So there's the LED, and on the back we have 5 volts and ground and data in and data out, so you can cascade these if you want, or just put a 3-pin header and plug that into a breadboard or a header socket on a PCB project where you don't need an entire strip of them. And this one should be a couple of ICs. MT8808. That is an 8x8 analog cross-point switch. That's the same series as the other MT8816 that I bought and made a big 16x16 analog matrix that I was using to pass guitar signals and switch the signals around between different inputs and outputs. So I thought, in case I ever need a smaller project doing similar things, this is just an 8x8, so now that I know how to use that series of chip, this should be easy to get up and running. I don't have a project in mind yet, but this is also easily breadboardable, so now I have it for when I can use it. And I don't know if I can fit this on screen. I'm just gonna take this away and empty it out. So first, this clear gloss seals and protects, also bonds to plastic. So basically clear, glossy spray paint. I bought this when I want to maybe spray it over something to protect, such as last month when I bought those water slide decal printer sheets, so I can print out labels and put them on something and then protect them. So this will be used in some experimenting like that. I've never tried this before, so I'll see how this goes. And this is just Amazon sticky notes. I'm sure there's millions of colors in here, so obviously sticky notes are useful, and I've been running out, so I bought this kind of quantity of them because especially I use them when I'm doing some sort of a design build and I notice I want to change some resistor or capacitor values on the board, and I'm always fumbling for scrap paper. Or if I'm doing some testing and I want to make notes of some measurements, I'll just use stuff like this. This is a 7-port USB 3 hub with a power adapter, so it's a powered hub. And this one has buttons for turning each port on and off. Aside from setting up multiple different computer work areas, where I probably could even use one or two more of these kind of things, I wanted the ability to have a powered hub as well as turning each port on and off, specifically for working with things like Arduino projects. It feels like they are physical push-on, push-off switches. 12-volt, 2-amp power source for this. So there's no computer close to here. I'll have to try this out later, but being a powered hub, as long as I can get at least maybe 2, if not 3 of these USB ports to be able to deliver 500 milliamps for USB, this will be good for developing things like an ESP32 module that's going to draw a couple hundred milliamps. And let's say you got 2, if not 3 of them plugged in, and you want to switch the serial monitor between modules. You don't know offhand which one belongs to which USB port. So often I find I have to unplug the module and plug it back in after I refresh the serial ports, and I can see which one disappeared. So this way I can just turn it on and off. So I'm hoping this works out, and if so, maybe I'll get another one. And speaking of guitar stuff, like I said recently when I bought some other stuff like this, I've been trying to collect some guitar luthier type tools for setting up and maintaining guitars. So there's a couple of things that came in this set. These are neck radius gauges. So they have markings on them: 9.5, 16, 20, 15, 10, 7.25. And of course, I think this is like your budget thing. So this is basically like buying it on AliExpress. I don't know even necessarily how to compare these to anything and see if they're right. But basically, the radius refers to the fact that the guitar neck isn't perfectly flat along there. It has a radius. So, for example, this gauge here is 7.25 inch. So if a guitar neck happens to follow that radius, it means essentially if you were to take this and continue it on and form the circle, it would be a 7.25 radius circle. So the larger the radius, the flatter the neck would be because there's less curvature. So this is, I can't demonstrate this properly, especially these strings are kind of low, close to the neck. If they were higher up, you could slide this in underneath and then stand it up and check the radius by just holding this down and seeing if it matches tightly. They're calling this a string action ruler. So it's got inches and millimeters, and there's different things on here. So I'm not sure all the things this is capable of measuring, but basically what I got it for, you lay this down on the guitar neck and you can see with these readings here how high the strings are up off of the fretboard, and that's the string height or the action. And then this, I think this is simply called a notched straight edge, which is what it looks like. So this one has the notches on both sides. Some only have it on one, and some have no notches. It's just a straight edge. So these are slightly different sizes and spacings for two different size of guitar neck. And I'm not sure exactly, I haven't used it yet, obviously, but I don't think you go all the way down to the nut down there. But somewhere along here you put this into position, and so the frets land in between those notches, so you can put this straight down to the fretboard, and I still have to check if this is actually perfectly straight. The idea of that is to check for neck relief, to see, is this neck perfectly straight, or is it bowed downward or bowed upward? And then you can decide if you want to tighten or loosen the truss rod going inside the neck to change if it's bowed or not. And if I trust this level as a straight edge, I don't know that I can show it, but when I know that I've lined this up perfectly perpendicular and I look through, I don't see any light shining through down where it's meeting with the level. So I think we're good with this. And speaking of guitar stuff, I went late night shopping on AliExpress again, and this time I got a replica of an EVH style Frankenstrat. That one's actually more in tune than the Qeefun a month ago. And just like the Qeefun, this one took just about a month to get here. It cost barely over $30 to import it with duty and taxes. The unit itself was, I think, 380 something, just over 380 Canadian. And as with all the other guitar purchases, I can barely demo it, but I can probably pull it off a little better on this one because this is the kind of stuff I have put a little effort into over the years trying to learn. I can't play a single chord without looking it up on YouTube again, but I can play a bunch of individual notes. So, another fun-filled mailbag. And of course, as far as budget goes, I'm considering a lot of this musical-related stuff to be more personal purchase, but ties into electronics ultimately, so I'm including it here. Otherwise, for the mainstream electronic purchases, thanks to Patreon and channel supporters for helping make all this possible.